So I'm doing this video on Kevin Samuels. The guy passed away, may he rest in peace. But I'm getting too much emails about what I thought about him because some of my content seems to be similar to what he does. Um, One of my former athletes who lives in Atlanta is the one that actually introduced me to some of his stuff because he thought I was sound something like him, or he wanted to get my opinion. I kind of warned him after listening to a couple of videos with him to be very careful following a lot of his advice, as a lot of his advice was highly superficial in nature. Um, you know, I teach three basic concepts: have your own place, have your own job, and be financially stable. Financial stability is a thing that eludes a lot of people, regardless of how much money they make. So it's the one that requires the most work, um, in my opinion. That's an ongoing thing. Um, Kevin Samuel, from what I don't know the guy, I never met him. All I could talk about the guy is based on some of the videos that I have seen, some of the news articles, some of the reactions that other people have done about the guy. Um, from some of the things that I've seen, and he's a highly intelligent man, um, quick witted. He concentrated a lot of his whatever he's talking about within a really small, finite group of statistics that he used repeatedly over and over. A lot of people tend to do that. They stay within like a framework. And he managed to put on one hell of a show. Um, his platform was very, very successful. And he did use a lot of, he used a few statistics, and he spoke a lot of truth within the confines of the narrative that he was pushing. And sometimes, most of the times, because of it's a show he's putting on first, he weaponized the truth, uh, where he can manipulate weak-minded people and people with insecurities. Um, Most MGTOW men would not really follow a lot of the things that he was doing, or talking about or teaching, um, because it had a, at least from my perspective, following MGTOW philosophy, the philosophies of MGTOW, the mindset of MGTOW, a lot of his stuff was superficial. Uh, he presented himself as an image consultant. I have worked in corporate America. I've never really met one, so I can't really speak on that profession at all. I just don't. He's the first and only person I ever know to say he was an image consultant on a professional level. So if that's the case, great. People could sell anything, I guess, nowadays. So if he's that, he really lived that. Everything about him was how it was about image. Um, One of the things I really warn my athlete about, who lives in Atlanta, is to be very careful with, because every now and then Mr. Samuel's ego would pop out. Uh, that false ego that I talk about in some of my spiritual stuff. You got to be very careful with false ego. Um, but he applied what he knew and what he preached to his life, and he carried himself very, very well. He was a living, breathing image, um, of what he considered image consulting. So he dressed nice, he carried himself nice, he stayed in fairly decent shape, he had a good height. He wasn't the most good looking guy, but he was able to, the use of celebrity, to um, convince women that it's really that they should be the pretty one and not really the guy. And a lot of times that really is true. That is true. Beauty is short lived, and of obviously the fairer sex is women. So, um, are women. I'm sorry. Um, my English teacher will probably choke me out using poor grammar. So in that regard, a lot of the stuff he spoke were truth. Um, some of the cons um, that I didn't really like that kind of forced me to warn. I mentioned a few of those about the superficial nature of his content. It didn't really delve into substance. It seemed more about making money and having the wow factor, using weaponizing truth and statistics, the few uh, truths that he spoke and the few statistics that he used in that regard. Um, and a lot of people followed. A lot of people, MGTOW don't MGTOW are usually men that kind of fell into the following trap, but because after like being screwed really in primarily in relationship, they got that epiphany and stepped back and say, oh, you know, so that's why men go their own way. Uh, a leader had to follow. You have to learn to follow before you could lead. For MGTOW, we've been following, playing the beta role for so long. When it really finally clicked, we walk away and carving our own path, obviously within the construct of material nature, the modes of material nature that I talk about. Now back to Kevin Samuels. The content were very shallow. It was a very highly superficial. It was highly repetitive. The only thing that changed was the women, the different women that came on the show, but they all had similar things. Very few of them were like gorgeous, um, as far as on the superficial level, but they all carried the same, or the women that he guided through his narrative for the show, again, were all looking for a rich man. Forget high value. They were all looking for a rich man. And, all the high values is hyperbole. They were all looking for a rich man, um, a man with money. Um, but and Kevin Samuels promoted that in a sense because there are a lot of men out there that make a lot of money, but end up like how Kevin Samuels is broke, a lot of debt. There's a news article out saying that all they could find is like $1,000. The guy's what 56 years old when he passed away and still live in an apartment. When I talk to my athletes about being financially stable, having a job, and having your own place, um, I also tell them having your own place, you could rent an apartment if you're going to be in a temporary space, um, and you're not going back to that location, you know, because of your job. You travel a lot, you're going wherever you're going, things like that. And it's a temporary situation. You're single, you're in your 20s, yeah. But by the time you're your mid 30s, you should have a house. You should own some real estate, um, and how you use that property as equity and things like that, you know, that's a whole different subject. But a person his age should own a house. Um, but he was living in an apartment. And again, I just found that out, because the news bulletin pop up. He was famous enough where there are news articles that pop up. So when they say he's broke, I'm not really surprised. He's putting on a show at first. Um, I didn't really follow his life beyond that, so I didn't really know these things beyond the show. But as since he's passed away and some of these things are coming out, MGTOW don't really um, promote um, frivolousness, the superficial. But again, his demographics for his show was superficial women. That goes from the very ugly to the pretty privileged women. It was all superficial because the ugly women elevated themselves thinking they were tens when they were really twos and threes. And Kevin Samuels was kind enough to say average at best. But he really wanted to say they were ugly as sin, but he couldn't say that, you know. um, but again, we all fall in that. Most of us fall in that average category, including myself. I'm an average guy. I'm average looking. I'm average everything. Average wealth, finances. There's nothing about me that's above average. Nothing. And I have no. I may joke with some of my inner circle and teasing how good looking, I'm prettier than them and things like that. Some of my female um, kids and stuff like that. But I'm an average guy all the way around. I will never try to sell myself as anything more. And even if I am more, it's not for me to say that. It's for you guys and the people around me to say, "Hey, he's more than average." And even then, I would try to shy away from those things. So, because I have seen men and women and people out there that's better looking than me, have more financial stability than me, uh, make way more money than me, live a lifestyle that's similar to my own but on a higher level. So there's nothing about me, I would say, is above average in that regard. Um, because and I cater more. My demographics is average people, not above, not not pretentious people trying to live above average lives. That's just not the demographics. I work with at-risk youth who come straight out of poverty with very little support and any kind of support whatsoever. So that's my demographics. Try and help them at least reach to the level I am, and then go where I can never follow, um, and go beyond me, and whatever that looks like. I just want everybody to be happy, healthy, and wise, in that regard. So Kevin Samuels, right down to the way to his death, lived the image. Image consultant. He carries himself. His package was packaged that catered to shallow women. The person that was at his deathbed was a smoking hot Latina woman. He was able to draw a woman like that with pretty privilege because he packaged himself well. And in hindsight, they're saying he was broke as a joke. As of now, they can't find none of his money. He lived in an apartment. Maybe that's how it is. Um, and things like that. I just do not promote men renting apartments, especially that old. Um, but superficial women are drawn to the swag, to the package, and it's clear from what I think she was an RN, resident nurse, assuming he was a high value man, um, which in the definition of his version of what high value is, never really mentioned money management. It always talk about the image, about making $10,000 a month for a series of years, being influential, giving back to the community and things of that nature. But never really talk about financial stability outside of being stable and making money. But from my experience, when you work and the more money you make, the more money you will spend if you don't have discipline when it comes to managing money. You will always want more. You will get bored, so you will do more, especially when you don't owe anything. And I can say that from personal experience. I want to do more when I paid off all my debt and I was bringing in money. I had to find something else to do with that money. So I upgraded my home theater, poured concrete in my side yard and things like that. Uh, you know, and I'm still doing a few things. Yes, I put that money into my house and my assets, so I didn't like burn money. But a lot of times we burn money. MGTOW don't at least me, or based on how I apply the MGTOW mindset and philosophy, do not promote superficial things. We have athletes. I tell my athletes, you're in the entertainment business. You have to put on a show, but You got to be able to back that show up with some content. You can't be all show and no substance, because you're not going to go far. That's just the reality of it. Um, Kevin Samuels was able to put on a fantastic show, but things are coming out now on his deathbed that he had health issues. He wasn't really he wasn't behind on his rent and whatever, but he didn't have any money, and they're talking about doing a GoFundMe page to raise money to bury the guy. I for one would not be sending any money to him, even though I appreciate a lot of the truth that he spoke. Um, but a lot of beta males out there that follow his show and do reaction videos to his stuff, they will and who are crying at his loss, will probably go on and try and send him off, uh, in what they think is appropriate. But that would be his last laugh, because he suckered a lot of people um, into his narrative using truth. You out there, if you're seeing this video, should take look. If you look at his content, follow, analyze it, see the repetition of it, see what you could apply to your own self, for your own lifestyle that you're looking to have. Average man cannot live the baller lifestyle or the lifestyle he was portraying. Um, One of the other things that I try to warn my athletes about, or people like that have that live at the level that I live at, which is not is average to me. I live a fairly average life. Um, Especially when I encounter gorgeous women, like with pretty privilege, and they happen to enter my inner circle. I show them my debt. I don't show them my income, my money. I don't show them what my investments. They see the worst of me. Um, and let, so those women, when they say, oh well, he's not really rich, he's broke. you know, that's how I present myself, as being broke. Um, Yet I'm paying all my bills and all this stuff. You know, my bills are on time. I'm not behind on anything. I have money saved, all that stuff. They don't see my savings. They don't see none of that stuff. They just see my reoccurring debt. But the way I present it is as though it's like a long term debt, when in reality it's just reoccurring debt. Stuff that I pay off, all pay on a monthly basis. I show them that. And a lot of times, I would hear, especially the pretty privilege that kind of follows a narrative of Kevin Samuel's demographics, because most people fall has that inflated sense of false ego, um, including the pretty privilege, more so they uh, than the average person, and they tend to talk, to say, "Oh, he broke," and then they'll walk away. And I deliberately do that because I want to see the character of the person when you present them a real world situation, and they tend to walk away. So they'll never see uh, my, you know, my overall finances. They just see the superficial stuff. I dress like a bum most of the times. That's why some of my female athletes say I do too much when I change my pants and put on some jeans and maybe a bracelet once in a while, or a watch. They say I'm doing too much because they see me go from vagabond to average, but because I'm dressed significantly below average, when I dress like an average guy, it looks like too much. Um, so um, that's always an inside joke with some of my female athletes. I'm doing too much, if I put on a bracelet or whatnot. Um, so in that regard, you guys got to focus on not so much the superficial. Don't get pulled and baited in a lot of the stuff Kevin Samuel has talked about. Yes, there is some truth. There is a lot of truth there, but you look at how he is using it and why he's using it the way he is. And to me, it was really to promote his show and to draw insecure women who were below average, but has this false ego that they were above average. Um, he used the truth to draw in. And when I say below average, I'm talking on looks alone. He used the truth to draw in insecure women who were making who behaved and made money like traditional men, who were below average, but because they had things that they were looking for in men but couldn't get the men that they want still, that insecurity is still there. So he's able to draw them in with the money, charge them $1,000 an hour, based on one video I saw where he mentioned something about he's not it's not his fault that she's broke because she couldn't pay the $1,000 an hour that he charges for consulting. To women like that, I say go see a therapist. It's cheaper. Um, go see somebody that has nothing to financially to gain from you sitting down and talking to them and working out your problems. That's what therapists and psychiatrists are for. Yes, they get paid, but they're not promoting a show, to make money and to travel and all that stuff. That's their job. That's a profession. Um, Obviously, there's some unethical people out there who would promote, their therapy sessions, and I've met some of those to youth through the youth program. That they're not really genuine; they're just there to make money. But for the most part, therapists and psychiatrists, they're governed by coma regulations, so they have to be within a certain um, stay within a certain confines of the law. Um, and I, and Kevin Samuels talked about seeing therapists as well. So he was giving you all truth because when you're a snake merchant, you give people the truth as a psychology for them to come to you because to them you're presenting yourself as though you're genuine. It's just the nature of the business that he was in. And I'm not saying that he wasn't trying to help men and help women. He was but his primary goal was to make money from that. Um, so hopefully this video is going to be a little bit longer because I really don't want to revisit this again. I'm tired of people asking me what are my thoughts of Kevin Samuel. I have spoken directly to some of my athletes who actually introduced me to him. So directly about being leery about following everything this guy said. Um, take everything and understand what he's doing as a show, and he's using snake oil, truth, propaganda. I think part of his background was sales and marketing that he consolidated into image consulting. He dressed the part. He looked the part. He was healthy. He was born being over 6 feet tall, so he had the image down pack, and he sold a package that a lot of shallow and superficial women, um, bought into, because a lot of people are shallow. If especially if you don't understand the modes of material nature, even myself, I struggle with that being shallow. I was significantly more shallow than I am now, but after embracing the mindset of MGTOW and um, going on my spiritual journey of self growth and development, because I work with youths, uh, I'm exposed to therapists, and I've gotten some therapy and some of those things. There's still lots that I personally work on from a therapeutic perspective, but I'm well aware of those things. Um, so you, as men and women out there, embrace the MGTOW way. Go your own way. Don't it doesn't just have to be men. Go your own way. Look within yourself. Take a spiritual journey because we all, including Kevin Samuel, man, he did really talk about his spiritual health. It's always the financial and that superficial stuff. But he did promote a lot of the mental stuff, like seeing therapists and things of that nature. But you got to like move away. And I did a video on this. Move away from influencers. Observe some of their stuff. Take away a few things. But you really got to move away from us and really go your own way. Um, Build your own self. Take the ideas that we present. Take what works. You will know instinctually if certain things don't really, is rubbing the wrong way. Analyze it, study it, make sure it's not just your ego getting in the way of those things, and go on and do your own thing. Um, be the better version of yourself. And I'm not saying that because as a cliche. I'm saying every day work on being a better version of yourself. Work on just the three things if you're in your youth, in your teens, your late teens, early 20s. Have your own job, be financially stable, have your own place. Those are the three things I promote with young men, especially if you want to get into relationships and stuff. You have that stuff. Um, all the socially awkward stuff that young men go through, and they're rejected by the pretty privileged women. Let them go. Those people are shallow anyway. Um, you know, and my female athletes know this. I'm going to say it again, especially the pretty privileged ones, because I've encountered a lot of beautiful young women that grew up in the boxing program, who are gorgeous. They have pretty privilege. I say, look, um, there's nothing wrong with wanting more in a man. There's nothing wrong with that. You want uh, a man with a certain lifestyle. Don't go after money. Lifestyle is more better than a person that making a lot of money. I promote that, and I tell them, look, even if you go with an average guy, but you are an above average woman when it comes to beauty. Um, you shouldn't go with someone that's a man that's below average. In this sense, you don't base your I tell them to stay away from two types of men. Men that get high, and who men who should have, at least by a certain age, be financially stable, their own job, and have their own place. And if you don't have those two things, you shouldn't be messing with no man. And the same thing I tell my male athletes: have those three things in place before you even waste your time messing with women. Because most women are superficial. That's just the nature of it. Most men are superficial. Young men, when we were young, we wanted to buy the fancy cars to attract the women because women are attracted to bullshit. A lot of times, like it or not, that's just the nature of living in the modes of material nature, passion, ignorance, and goodness. We all try to present ourselves as being good, like living in the mode of goodness, but that's a lie. It's very difficult to live just in the mode of goodness because we have this body, you know, that operates, functions, and is tied to the modes of material nature. It's material energy. So passion and ignorance is also part of that. You have to understand that you don't know everything. I don't know everything. Just like I say, I don't know Kevin Samuels. All I know is like how he presents himself in some of the shows, how he directed a lot of his um, the guests on the shows into a narrative, and he used very finite statistics to guide everything to where he wanted it to go. And a lot of people follow that. Even content creators are following him as though he's God and not creating anything of their own. Just what he say. This is what he say. Or reacting to what he's done. When you start, and then there are people There are followers that follow Kevin Samuels, and there are followers that follow the followers who follow Kevin Samuels. And you don't want to be the followers that follow the followers of Kevin Samuels. You want to adopt the MGTOW mindset. Go your own way. I'm not saying don't listen to the stuff he's done. Listen to the stuff he's done. Draw on some of the truth. Look up at the statistics. See if it can be applied to your life. And if it can be applied to your life, apply it. But a lot of the things that he talked about and people have reacted to doesn't really fit into everybody's everyday life or life situation. Standing your ground, knowing your worth, those type of things, yes. But beyond a lot of that stuff, you can't really get suckered into the show, and not really see all the mechanics that went into sh- showing that presentation. Even on his deathbed, he was with a very hot, pretty privileged woman who I think was an RN, a resident nurse or something. So she was doing well for herself, but she was drawn in by the image of who he is. And now they're talking about having to raise money for his funeral because he only had like $1,000 in his bank account. You know, and of course there are a lot of beta males out there, non MGTOW mindset people out there who's gonna send money to that whatever GoFundMe to bury the guy because they're truly followers. You know, that man's expenses has nothing to do with you just because he went and he became famous, doing whatever he became successful and famous in a platform using a formula that worked for him, that exploited the psyche of a lot of people, including content creators out there that that's striving on his stuff, um, on reacting or commenting on the things that he's done. And that's why he had to put up things out there, well, don't use my stuff. Yeah, because a lot of people out there are followers, including a lot of these content creators that's trying to present themselves as something, somewhat of a leader or someone of an expert in a lot of the stuff they're doing. None of us are really experts. I have 15 years, almost 20 years of psychology background, but you know, I if you understand the mood, if ignorance, what I know compared to what's out there is insignificant. I still have a lot to learn, and the little that I know isn't enough to really change anything in a significant way. It's you who's listening to what I have to say, who can grasp and apply what I say to your own life, evolve it, and take it to the next level. You're the ones that really, um, as a community, is where the change is going to take place. I might create a spark, but that's about it. I will never tout myself as a know-it-all. It's just not possible. I have some life experiences that I can apply, and it's easy to manipulate women. I've seen that personally. I've done that personally. I mean, pretty privileged women I've been able to manipulate because that's all they have is pretty privilege. They have nothing else. And a lot of these women out here that follow Kevin Samuels, even if they don't have the pretty privilege part, are easily manipulated because they have that false ego thinking they are that beautiful and not realizing that they have significantly more stuff to offer, especially in relationships, that they have diminished in value. And Kevin Samuels was able to speak that truth and capitalize on it. How he spent his money that he capitalized on, I don't know. What they're saying, he's broke. He died broke. If that's the case, you know, that's just how it is. I'm not going to say he's below average or above average, but he doesn't fit the three standards that I have in place that I teach to my athletes and that you should learn as well. Sorry for the length of this video. I really don't want to revisit talking about Kevin Samuels, especially now that he's dead. I've never used his content. I've referred to him a couple times to as a reference to say look at some of his stuff. Um, People have commented that I sound like a nicer version of him here and there, but um, we spoke different different things. He focused primarily on the false ego and the presentation or the image, the outer appearance, the superficial stuff. He used very specific uh, um, statistics to support and guide his narrative back to those statistics and never took things beyond that because anything beyond that was outside of his control. And you guys have to see that a lot of the stuff was that he talked about was within his control, within his narrative. And therefore he could never really explore outside of that. Even when certain women was able to say something within his narrative that contradicted it or made more sense, he would either just ignore what they say and try and go back to it, which I've seen him do several times, or he will ignore it and try to bombard them with with negativity on some point that they already covered and it's already done to gain control, regain control of the narrative he was trying to talk about. So I never really had to use his stuff, nor did I react to any of his stuff. I reacted to his stuff privately to my athletes that saw him as like a demigod and had to guide them accordingly. And after this video, I'll actually call one of them that introduced me to some of his stuff to to let him understand that what Kevin Samuel showed on the outside was a show. How he is and how he lived, nobody really knows. But from his financials, if what they're saying is true, that he died broke, it's not surprising because he was all about the show. Like, subscribe, ask questions in the comment section down below. I really don't want to do another video concerning Kevin Samuels. I may do something about the superficial nature of the women of women out there that was drawn to him because of their own insecurities, a lack of having any substance of their own beyond beauty, or any substance beyond having what they expect from a man they have for themselves, like wealth, career, college education, and things like that. But I talk about that anyway. Um, Go MGTOW, go your own way, be your own leader. Those of you who are betas and following Kevin Samuels like he's God, you know, you also have alpha in you and you also have sigma. We all have it. It's just the mode that we choose to be in. Um, Go to MGTOW way. Step out of Kevin Samuel's shadow, his influence. Take the information you got from him, apply it, analyze it, and open the world to something bigger than just what Kevin Samuel have to offer. Because it's up to you guys as a content creators and influencers to share your truth and guide and do whatever you guide at, not just be a follower. Just don't have followers following the people that you are following. You know what I mean? Y'all have a good day.